What have you caught your babysitter doing? Viewer edition. Story 1. Okay, my parents didn't put up any cameras, but I remember this. I was, I believe, 4 years old. This babysitter had orangish, medium curly hair and wore a green sweater and these jeans. Basic babysitter attire. I had these wild animal stickers I always used. I took these stickers and put one of them all over the page and went to our couch and sat down. Babysitter. What's this? Me. I will explain all the things on this page. The babysitter was around in her 20s. She graduated high school. She knew every animal. My 4-year-old butt must have thought because of how my parents were so excited and happy when I named the new animal. This is because I was practically mute when I was around 2 or 3, only saying and doing things like up, mama, dada, and pointing at things. But I thought they didn't know. Story 2. I have a bit of a confusing one. I used to work as a babysitter for almost 2 years. One day I had to go out of town because this couple was paying $500 to babysit her twins for a few days due to a family emergency. I left my 6-year-old son with my girlfriend while I took care of the twins. I have a baby monitor in his room as well as the living room that I never told her about. I suddenly got an alert on my phone, so I decided to see what it was, and I watched my girlfriend yell at my son for some reason. I couldn't make out what she was saying. I assumed he was just misbehaving, so I just kept watching. My girlfriend went to our room, came back, and smacked him across the face. I texted the mother of the twins and told her to come home as soon as possible. She came back around 10:30 after I put the kids to bed and explained what happened. I drove home and cursed the stuff out of my girlfriend. We broke up, and now I have a boyfriend that loves my son more than anything. Too long didn't read. I caught my girlfriend abusing my son while babysitting twins. Story 3. I didn't get any of these on video, but my babysitter would mumble stuff about me and my older sibling. Me and my sister, of course, hated the babysitter, and she also hated us. She would steal our stuff that was just bought recently. She would also leave my younger sister unattended alone in her room, and she would also go into me and my other sister's room to annoy us whenever my parents aren't around. I caught her going through my father's stuff for money, and she would say, "I will go out and buy something." But when she returns, I see freaking snacks and chips. Have told her many times not to do things she's not supposed to, but sometimes my father would catch me telling my babysitter not to do this or that crap and get mad at me and say, "You don't talk to people like that." Me and my mother discussed this, and we can't fire her because we're having a hard time trying to find another babysitter, but hopefully next time we get a better one. Story 4. So it actually depends on the charcoal because in reality, charcoal is dried bark or shells from nuts, or even nuts all by themselves that are shredded and crushed together under massive crushers that force the plant material together to make charcoal. Source: my dad used to make the charcoal for Kingsford's Match Light Mesquite. Most charcoal is not even slightly harmful. However, if lighter fluid is added to it, then it is deadly poison. But rather, charcoal without chemicals added is actually pretty harmless, except for the sharp edges from the shells. I do not advise eating it unless it's the real fancy stuff that is made from only nuts, and that stuff is pretty freaking tasty, but hard like a jawbreaker. Story 5. One time I was walking down the hallway of my school with this girl, and my best friend walked up and we started talking. He was holding some sort of badge on a lanyard in his right hand and accidentally dropped it. He tried recovering the badge before it fell to the floor and fumbled with it all the way to the ground. In the process of trying to recover the badge, he scoops his hand upwards and gets a handful of my family jewels. I about keeled over from the pain. The girl next to me witnessing the whole thing bursts out laughing, and my friend, clearly embarrassed, says, "Sorry," and then we go on our way. I felt like I was going to puke for a solid 5 minutes after that, just from the pain. Story 6. Okay, though, seriously, if I found that footage and found out that it happened in my bed, I don't think it'd be enough to burn the sheets. At the very minimum, I would burn the entire bed and get an entire new bed, including the mattress and the box spring. On the extreme, man, I would do what the internet does when a large spider escapes in the house. Well, not actually. I believe that destroying your house over that in that way would be a crime. I would seriously debate moving, though. Story 7. Here's a rule for babysitting, pet sitting, and or house sitting. Always assume that there are cameras everywhere. It doesn't matter if the parents and owners say there aren't any cameras, or if they point out the cameras. Always assume there are cameras everywhere. It will save you from embarrassment and potentially save you from any legal problems. This rule has worked wonders for me. Story 8. Question for story 31, did they live here in the Philippines? Because that's what we call our caretakers, nannies, and household helpers. I just like calling them by this because they're like family, maids, or sometimes we call them ate. No, not like you just ate something, but it's what we use to address our older sisters. Yaya is what I use to address my household helpers. Story 9. Benadryl in high doses isn't for small children for a reason. I have a prescription of a high dose of Benadryl, and I, roughly 140 pounds, am knocked out and high as frick after taking it. It's for my severe anxiety and autism. It sedates me, basically. I don't think it would harm a small child, but definitely bad for them. Story 10. Well, here's what I learned. Babysitters, completely evil. Dog sitter, literally the best thing you can think of. Cat sitter, hell no. Story 11. I freaking wish my mom had them so many people would be in jail, and I wouldn't just be screamed at saying that I'm lying all the time. I mean, there's other times where it wasn't babysitters and not in my home and stuff, so those people wouldn't have gotten anything, but still, just one of them, please. Story 12. Not true, but I once told my mom to not leave, and my mom asked why. I told her the babysitter threw blocks at me. I didn't realize it then, but my mom and the babysitter shared a glance. Needless to say, I think the babysitter left. I heard my mom talking about not being able to get in touch again. Story 13. Story 5, where the kids were basically drugged to sleep, is what my grandmother did to me when I was a kid. Happened for several years, and I changed so drastically. I can only assume I was seriously messed up by this. It also explains multiple concerning gaps in my memory. Story 14. We call our Gramps Nanny Slayer. He was well known for hitting our nannies when Grandma isn't looking. After he was caught several times, my grandma decided to employ fat old helpers, and my grandpa has been sad ever since. Story 15. The only time I've ever had a babysitter was the lady who also takes our pictures near Christmas, first day of school, etc. She took me to my favorite park and taught me how to safely jump off the swing set. I love you, Miss Allie. Story 16. Oh my gosh, the one about the grandpa is too funny and sounds like my grandpa before the Alzheimer's. And after Granny passed, ain't gonna lie, that was funny and sounded like a story Jeff Dunham would have Walter tell. Story 17. Yeah, if I'm ever in need of someone else to look after my child, I'm looking at family members and friends first, mainly for the safety of other people's lives if I found out someone was hurting my kid. Story 18. This one time I was sleeping when my babysitter was downstairs. I was 12 at the time, and my parents were out of town for the week. I don't remember much, but I saw my babysitter sitting on me, then I fell back asleep. Story 19. I remember being babysat once in a trailer. I have a feeling I may have been waterboarded for maybe not eating cereal or something. All I know is that I was taken from that psycho's place, and I still wonder the rest. Story 20. The one about being drugged to sleep made me remember something when I was a child. Me and the other children always fell asleep after eating our lunch, and I don't know if that was just us or now you're raising my suspicion. Story 21. 13-minute mark, legendary babysitter. I hope by dealt with appropriately, they meant given tip. I don't care if it's 20 minutes after bedtime. If they're helping the kid while they're freaking out, that's based. Story 22. I was really hoping a nanny or caretaker or whatever would do the gritty right foot creep. Ooh, I'm walking with that heater. Look around, stay low, make sure they don't see you. Story 23. I'd get busted on being a big softy around babies, kids, and animals. All three are so innocent and hard to not be happy around, or even just watching them do their things. Story 24. Humanity has two sides. The I will make sure this child and pet feel safe and happy, or I will die people, and feed your child pure unfiltered mud people. Story 25. I read a story not too long ago of a nanny who was like 16 stealing food. Turns out it was to feed her two younger siblings since the mom was like a drunk. Story 26. Oh God, I feel so bad for her. OP's sister must have reminded the babysitter of the child she lost. Hopefully she's doing all right now. Story 27. This video goes from I had a babysitter who cured cancer for me to my babysitter ended the life of my kids and set the house on fire. Story 28. Give them paper cuts, roll them in salt, and put them in a pool of lemon juice. Do this to the babysitters that would hurt the baby. Story 29. The strangest thing was that my babysitter, my sister, put me in a pretzel just to put on my clothes. I was 2 at the time. Story 30. Well, I didn't get to post on the internet. My brother was caught with my babysitter, both being teenagers making out. Story 31. Okay, the woman who used Clorox wipes on the child should be forced to drink bleach or go to prison. Story 32. I caught my babysitter going through my phone once to see all the offensive memes I stockpiled. Story 33. I'm very surprised that none of these stories have babysitters doing anything weird to the child. Story 34. I genuinely hope people who torment babies suffer forever. Story 35. Caught my nanny stealing my phone 105mm anti-tank gun. Story 36. The grandpa and babysitter story caught me off guard. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.